The Galactic Council chamber was always alive with sound. Thousands of voices, tones, and languages overlapped like a living ocean. Bright banners of every known civilization hung from the dome, each representing pride, history, and territory. At the very center floated the massive star map, a glowing projection of the galaxy itself. To most delegates, the map was a symbol of unity. To Councillor Threx of the Darnathi, however, it was a puzzle that gnawed at his mind. The map stretched far and wide, showing every explored sector, every border dispute, and every trade lane. Yet always, it stopped at the same place, human space. At the rim of that region, glowing blue lines formed a wall of silence. Beyond it, the stars were not mapped. They were simply blank, a hole in the galaxy, as if no one had dared draw further. Threx's narrow eyes flickered as he studied the void. His people were explorers. They thrived on knowledge and feared no mystery. For months he had asked quiet questions. For months he had received only vague answers. And always the same phrase returned, carried on hushed voices. Better not to ask. Today, though, Threx had decided to ask. He rose from his seat, his robe of green silk flowing behind him. The floor quieted as he raised his long fingers and spoke in a voice sharp with curiosity. "Honored Council," he began, "I notice once again that our maps end at the edge of human space. This has been the case for centuries. Tell me, why is that so? Why do we not chart the stars beyond?" The chamber fell into an unnatural silence. Voices stopped. Quills paused. The projection of the galaxy shimmered in the air like frozen glass. A heavy figure, Ambassador Dural of the Vok, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His thick armored body leaned forward, tusks glinting in the light. "Councillor Threx," he rumbled, "some questions are not wise to ask." "But we are seekers of truth," Threx pressed. "Are we not united in knowledge? Do we not call ourselves the guardians of civilization? Then why should one region of stars remain hidden? What lies beyond?" No one answered. The silence grew colder, heavier, as though the air itself was pressing down. Even the youngest races, normally eager to debate, kept their eyes lowered. Finally, a voice came from the far side of the chamber. It was soft but carried the weight of age. Ambassador Rehale of the Caraxi, whose people had walked the stars before most races had lit their first fires. His long silver neck bent low as his ancient eyes fixed on Threx. "Do not let your curiosity reach human space," Rehale said. "Many before you tried. None returned." Threx's throat clicked in surprise. "You mean expeditions were sent? Why is this not recorded?" Rehale closed his eyes and did not answer. The human envoy, seated calmly near the center, remained silent as well. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes, dressed in simple black. Her name was Ilara Ward, but most knew her only as the High Envoy. She did not shift. She did not frown. She simply watched. The silence stretched until the Speaker of the Council, a neutral AI construct, moved the session forward. "The matter of human borders is not open for debate. We shall now continue with trade discussions." The chamber stirred back to life, but the air remained heavy. Threx sat down slowly, his mind burning with more questions than ever. Far from the council chamber, in orbit above Earth, Captain Maria Cade stood inside the command center of the Terran Defense Fleet. From her window stretched a view that always filled her with equal parts pride and dread. Earth, glowing blue against the black of space. Report scrolled across her console. Patrol ships had spotted alien scouts lingering near the border sectors again. Nothing hostile, but suspicious enough to raise alarms. Cade's jaw tightened. She knew what it meant. Curiosity. It always started with curiosity. Behind her, Admiral Rourke entered the command deck. His uniform was marked with medals, but his face carried the weight of old battles. He glanced at the reports and sighed. "They're sniffing at the border again," he muttered. "Always the same. They think we don't notice, and they'll never stop," Cade said. "The council can't help themselves. They see a blank space on a map and they itch to fill it." Rourke turned to her, his eyes cold. "Then it is our job to remind them why that space must remain blank." Cade nodded. Every human officer understood. They did not guard their borders because of pride or fear of invasion. They guarded them because beyond those borders was something else, something no alien could ever be allowed to wake. She remembered her training, the classified briefings, the stories whispered in the academy dorms. None of them had details, but all carried the same message. Humanity stands at the gate, and the gate must never open. Cade returned her eyes to Earth. Millions lived in peace below, unaware of the shadow her fleet kept at bay. She clenched her hands behind her back. The galaxy thought humans were stubborn, secretive, and proud. Let them think so. Better that than the truth. Back at the council, Threx walked through the archives. The halls were quiet, lined with glowing shelves of memory crystals. He searched through records of exploration, wars, treaties. But always, whenever he approached the subject of human borders, files were missing, erased, or sealed. Finally, he found one dusty record, centuries old, nearly forgotten. It told of a fleet, the Serac explorers, who had once crossed into human space without permission. The last message they had sent was a single word filled with panic. After that, nothing. The word was, run. Threx felt his heart beat faster. Why had no one told him this? Why had it been hidden? As he returned to his quarters, his aide asked softly, "Counselor, what did you find?" Threx hesitated. He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to shout it to the council. But he remembered the silent chamber, the old Caraxes warning, the human envoy's unblinking stare. He lowered his voice to a whisper. "I found enough to know that the map ends for a reason. That night, across human space, fleets moved quietly along the border. Captain Cade's ships aligned in formation, their engines burning like watchfires in the dark." She stood at her post, her eyes never leaving the blank stars beyond. The council could ask questions. Curious diplomats could dig. But when they reached too close, humanity would remind them. The stars beyond human space did not belong to anyone. They were not unclaimed. They were not forgotten, they were sealed. And everyone who wished to live knew better than to ask why. Counselor Threx could not forget the silence of the chamber. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the map, the galaxy bright and full until it reached the border of human space, where it cut off like a blade through parchment. He heard the warning of Ambassador Rehale echoing in his ears. "Do not let your curiosity reach human space. Many before you tried. None returned." But Threx was Darnathi, born of a race that survived deserts and storms. His people believed every mystery should be uncovered, no matter the danger. Fear only fed curiosity, and so, against the quiet warnings, Threx prepared a plan. He did not tell the council. He did not tell even his closest allies. He summoned a fleet of explorers from his homeworld, sworn to secrecy, and sent them across the human border. Small ships, fast and silent, designed to slip through space unnoticed. They carried no weapons, only sensors and determination. For 3 days, Threx waited in his chambers. At first, messages came, steady reports of star systems, planets, dust fields. But then silence. On the 4th day, no signal arrived. On the 5th day, still nothing. By the 7th, the explorers were gone. No distress call, no trace, not even a flicker of wreckage on long-range scans. It was as if they had never existed. Threx's aides grew pale when he asked for updates. They refused to speak of it. One even begged him to stop asking. "Counselor, please, let it go. We cannot challenge the humans. No one can." But Threx's anger only grew. At the next council session, he stood again. "I demand answers," he declared. "My fleet has disappeared. They crossed into human space, and now they are gone. Do the humans claim responsibility?" The chamber turned to the human envoy. Ilara Ward did not rise. She did not even look surprised. She only folded her hands and said calmly, "The maps are accurate." Her words carried no explanation, no denial, no apology. Just finality. "Accurate?" Threx snapped. "That is no answer. What did you do to them? What lies beyond your borders?" For a moment, Ward's eyes locked on his. Cold, sharp, unblinking, she leaned forward slightly and spoke with quiet steel. "You should not have sent them." The words struck the chamber like a thunderclap. Some delegates gasped. Others bowed their heads in silence. No one defended Threx. No one supported him. Ambassador Dural of the Vox shifted uneasily. "Counselor Threx," he rumbled, "this matter is dangerous. We urge you to stop. Do not bring war upon yourself or upon us." Threx's voice shook with frustration. "So this is how the council behaves? We surrender our curiosity to fear? We let one species decide where our galaxy ends?" But again, no one answered him. Later, Threx sought the archives again. He demanded access to sealed files, bribed clerks, and used his status to slip past barriers. Piece by piece, fragments of history came together. There had been a war. Not recorded in public annals, not celebrated in songs, but whispered in fragments. Long ago, before humanity even joined the council, something had risen beyond their stars. Something that spread, consuming systems one by one. The records did not describe it in detail, only hints. The swarm, the dark wave, the final war. It had taken fleets from dozens of races to fight it. Yet the last battles were not fought by those ancient allies. They were fought by humans who had stood at the edge of their space and refused to retreat. The records ended there, and after that, silence. The maps were cut, the borders fixed. The war never spoken of again. Threx felt both awe and unease. Why had the truth been buried? Why had no one spoken openly of this final war? Did the humans win, or did they only seal the threat away? Meanwhile, far from the council halls, Captain Maria Cade drilled her fleet. Inside the Terran Defense Fleet's flagship, rows of soldiers stood at attention. Their armor gleamed silver under the lights, their eyes focused, their discipline unshaken. Cade walked among them, her boots echoing on the floor. "You are the wall," she told them. "You are the shield. When others grow curious, you remind them. When others forget, you make them remember." The soldiers struck their chests with fists in salute. None of them asked questions. None of them needed to. Every human soldier understood the duty that came with their uniform. Later, in the command deck, Admiral Rourke joined her. "The council is stirring," he said grimly. "Some races whisper that Threx is right. They say we are hiding resources, hoarding secrets." Cade's jaw clenched. "Let them whisper. The alternative is worse." "They don't understand," Rourke muttered. "They never will. To them, it looks like pride. To us, it's survival." Cade looked out the viewport where the border shimmered with defense satellites. Her voice was steady. "If they cross again, Admiral, we show them nothing but silence. Nothing must escape from beyond. Nothing must return." Back at the council, Threx was not done. He prepared a resolution that humans must open their borders, share their maps, and reveal what lay beyond. He gathered allies, young races eager for new resources, restless powers who envied Earth's growing strength. Some called him reckless. Others whispered that he was brave. In his heart, though, Threx felt the weight of unease. He remembered the lost fleet. He remembered the word carved in an old archive. Run. Still, ambition burned hotter than fear. On the day he announced his resolution, the council chamber was packed. Every ambassador, every delegate, every eye turned toward the floor. The star map hung above them all, glowing brightly, its edges cutting off at human space. Counselor Threx raised his hands high. "No longer can we live in ignorance. No longer can we bow to silence. I call for truth. I call for answers. I call for the humans to open the borders they guard so tightly and show us what lies beyond." The chamber stirred with unease. Some cheered softly. Some muttered angrily. Some simply sat frozen, afraid. And at the center of it all, the human envoy rose to her feet at last. Elara Ward's voice was calm, but it cut through the noise like steel. "Counselor Threx," she said, "you speak of opening doors you do not understand. Be careful. For once opened, they cannot be closed again." Her words silenced the chamber. Even Threx's allies lowered their eyes, but Threx stood firm. "We will not be ruled by fear." Elara Ward's gaze darkened. "It is not fear," she said softly. "It is memory." That night, in the quiet corners of the galaxy, whispers spread like shadows. The council was divided. Some feared humanity more than ever. Others began to wonder what humans were hiding. And some, the boldest of all, believed Threx's call for answers was the spark that could change the galaxy forever. But in human space, fleets moved with calm precision. Captain Cade stood at her post watching the stars, her expression unreadable. She knew the council was restless. She knew curiosity would rise again, and she knew the truth would soon demand to be revealed. The Galactic Council chamber was more crowded than anyone could remember. The seats were filled, the balconies overflowed, and even the air seemed heavy with tension. Whispers passed through the room like sparks before a storm. Everyone knew why they were here. Counselor Threx stood tall at the center, his robe flowing around him. Weeks of work had led to this moment. He had gathered support, stirred debate, and pushed the council to face the question they had avoided for centuries. What lies beyond human space? The star map hovered above them, glowing bright. Once again, it ended abruptly at the edge of human territory. The blank space beyond seemed almost alive, daring them to step into it. Threx raised his voice. "Honored Council, for too long we have been bound by silence. We bow to fear instead of truth. The humans demand we ignore the stars beyond their borders, yet they offer no reason. We are explorers, builders, seekers of knowledge. We cannot allow a single race to decide where our galaxy ends. Today I demand an answer." The chamber erupted, some clapping in support, others shouting warnings. The noise was a storm of fear and ambition. But all eyes soon turned to the human envoy, Alara Ward. As she rose from her seat, she moved slowly, each step measured, until she stood in the center opposite Threx. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp as blades. When she spoke, her voice cut through the chaos like thunder. "You demand an answer?" she said. "Very well. But know this. Once you hear the truth, you will wish you had stayed silent." The chamber fell still. Even Threx felt his confidence waver, but he pressed forward. "We are not children to be frightened with shadows. Speak, envoy, show us what you hide." Alara Ward's gaze swept across the chamber. "Do you truly want us to show you what lies beyond?" The question hung in the air like a blade. For a moment, no one spoke. Some ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. A few of the oldest races, those whose records stretched back further than most, lowered their eyes. One by one, they rose from their seats and left the chamber in silence, as if they already knew what was coming. The council was shaken. Threx's voice trembled slightly, but he forced himself to reply. "Yes, we demand it." Alara Ward nodded once. "Then listen." The lights in the chamber dimmed. The star map shifted. For the first time in centuries, the projection did not end at human space. It expanded, showing stars beyond the border, worlds erased from records, forgotten by history. But they were not empty. The projection revealed ruins. Entire systems marked as lost. Whole planets scarred black, their surfaces burned, their skies shattered. Civilizations that no one remembered had once lived there and were gone. Gasps echoed through the chamber. "This," Alara Ward said, "is what we hide. This is what you call a blank space." She raised her hand and the map zoomed closer to a ruined world. A broken city floated in silence, its towers reduced to dust. "There was a war," she said. "Not against any council race. Not against us. Against something else. Something that came from beyond even these stars." Her voice grew colder. It consumed everything. It spread like fire, devouring planets, ships, and people. Entire fleets fell silent. Entire civilizations vanished. "We fought it together once, but in the end it was humanity who stood at the final line." Threx swallowed hard. "And you defeated it?" Alara Ward's eyes darkened. "We sealed it." "That is not the same." The chamber was silent. No one breathed. Ward continued, her voice like steel. "We became the wall. We built our fleets, our defenses, our lives around the border. We told the galaxy nothing because knowledge invites curiosity, and curiosity invites disaster. Do you see now why the maps end here? It is not pride. It is not secrecy. It is survival." Threx staggered back, his mind spinning. The blank space he had seen as opportunity was now revealed as a graveyard. The fleet he had sent, it was not taken by humans. It had been swallowed by something else, something waiting in the dark. "But," his voice cracked, "centuries have passed. Perhaps it is gone. Perhaps you exaggerate." Alara Ward's expression hardened. She raised her hand again and the map shifted once more. This time it showed live surveillance from the border, faint signals, strange movements beyond the stars. Shapes that were not natural, shadows that pulsed like living storms. "It is not gone," she said quietly. "It sleeps, and if we open the door, it will wake again." The chamber erupted in cries of fear and disbelief. Some shouted for the borders to remain closed. Others demanded the council to unite against the threat. But one truth was clear to all. Humanity had not been guarding their space for themselves. They had been guarding the galaxy. Threx stood frozen. His pride was gone, replaced by cold dread. He remembered his lost fleet. He remembered the final word he had uncovered in the archives. "Run." Slowly, he lowered his head. I withdraw my resolution." Alara Ward looked at him, but she offered no comfort. "Curiosity has a price, Counselor. Let this be the last time we must remind you." After the session, the council chamber emptied in uneasy silence. No one dared speak loudly. No one dared meet the eyes of the human envoy. The truth was too heavy to bear. Meanwhile, in orbit above Earth, Captain Maria Cade stood at her command deck. The reports of the council meeting had reached her. She watched the border as her fleet moved into new formations, engines burning like a wall of fire. Her second officer approached. "Do you think they'll stay silent now?" Cade's lips pressed into a hard line. "For a time. But curiosity never dies. One day someone else will ask again." She looked out at the blank stars beyond the border. They seemed peaceful, quiet, beautiful. But she knew better. She had sworn her life to the truth hidden there. Humanity was not guarding its space for glory or power. Humanity was the gatekeeper, standing between the galaxy and something far worse. And as long as humans drew breath, the map would stop at their borders.